Welcome to Rusty Hammer Forge Builds, where we build it, we make it, and we forge it, so you can too. In this episode, I'm forging a blacksmith knife out of a piece of coil spring. These are some of my favorite knives to make. They let me constantly work my skills while still showing all of those skills in the finished piece. They're rough, textured, and honest, but fine-tuned to the point of precision. Where simple projects teach the fundamentals, this kind of forging reinforces them, sharpens them, and brings them all together in one build. So here's how I forged it. The first step is straightening out the coil spring. This is a half section of 5/8 inch spring, and I work it until it's mostly straight. Next, I start working from one end of the straightened spring and draw it down into a flat, wide taper. I'm taking it from 5/8 of an inch thick down to somewhere between 3/8 and 1/4 of an inch. Next, I move to the handle side and start squaring the steel up. This is just basic blacksmithing, taking a round piece and working it into 4 clean sides. Once it's squared, I hot cut it over the edge of the anvil using the hammer. Then, while it's still hot, I use a file to clean up that cut end and smooth it out before moving back into the heavier forging. Next, I start flattening the tang down until it's about half the thickness of the spine as it sits right now. Next, I hammer along the spine to match it to the thickness of the tang and start taking the curve out. Then I stand the blade on the spine and work along the edge to finish straightening it. And finally, I upset the corner into itself to begin forming the tip and give the blade a clear endpoint. Next, I use a hardy fullering tool to isolate the tang from the blade and form the finger choil. From there, I move to the horn of the anvil and start upsetting the tail of the tang. I keep working it down and drawing it out, tapering it until I have a longer, narrower tang taking shape. Back on the blade side, I work the steel down to a defined point, keeping it thick, but getting the overall blade shape where I want it. Then I turn it around and draw the tang out further, bringing it to the rough length and thickness I'm looking for. Here, I switch to a smaller hammer and begin profiling the knife. I work along the tang, up through the finger choil, and back into the blade, refining the shape and straightening everything out. Next, I start forging in the edge geometry, working the bevels into the blade with the hammer. This causes the blade to curve again, so I stand it on the spine and hammer along the edge to bring it back straight. A little cold planishing finishes it off and leaves the blade clean and true. This next stage is all about hand filing, and I start at the finger choil and work my way down through the tang, then across the blade to the tip. After flipping it over, I follow the spine back, creating a long, flowing clip that runs down toward the end of the tang. Then standing it up in the vise, I finish by refining the point where the spine meets the edge. This is all just profile work, done by hand. Next, I began hand filing the blade itself, following the edge geometry that was forged in earlier. I work one face until it's established, then flip the knife over and do the same on the other side, going back and forth until both faces are even and clean. This part is completely optional. You don't have to do this by hand. A grinder will do the job just fine. I am hand filing here because this is how I wanted to shape it. Next, I start scrolling the end of the tang into a closed scroll. I hang it over the edge of the anvil, roll it back on itself, and hammer it into a tight scroll. Then I move to the vise and use a scrolling hardy to form the tang into an open scroll. I finish by laying the scroll alongside the show side of the blade, which is the left side, making sure it sits flush and the eye lines up with the rest of the knife. Next, with the scroll work finished, I stamp the blade. Then after stamping, I make sure everything is still straight and true before moving on. From here, the blade goes straight into an oil quench, and once it cools enough to handle, I temper it in the oven at 420 degrees for 2 hours. And that's how I forge a blacksmith knife. There are plenty of ways to do it. This is just the way I prefer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.